Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Heart Intelligence Summit. The first thing that I want to do is to ask everybody, how was day 1? And maybe you can type on the chats. For this one, I want you to stay muted because then if I go back and forth, I won't be able to cover the content. And my goal is to finish in 45 minutes. So how was day 1? Was there any takeaway? What is one thing that you got the most out of? And also, well, I don't think I need to ask if you can hear me. If you answer that question, it means that you can hear me. So that would be awesome. And I have important thing that I want to talk about today. Something that makes people stuck. And I was thinking this morning, every single day when I prepare mentally the summit or workshop that I do, I start sort of going back to this idea of what is it that I really want to let people know. And every workshop and summit that I do is very intuitively driven. I am always guided by my intuition. Of course, there are things that I think this is also a part of the intuition where I see and observe the world, what people are dealing with and working on, and, ask myself why people are focusing on that, why people are experiencing that. And of course, I did the same thing this morning. And I think this day 2 is going to be really, really important for a lot of people. And the reason that I really want to talk about the heart intelligence is to convey this idea to everyone that there's what if there's something more? What if there's something much, much bigger than what you could possibly imagine in your current life? And it doesn't really matter where we are at. It doesn't really matter what happened in your life in the past. It doesn't really matter what your age is, where you're living. It just has to do with tapping into that greater and bigger part of us. And that is my goal, to really help everyone, as I said yesterday, understand the overall nature of life. And it's interesting because, let me just be honest, I don't think many people are living life the way that we humans are designed to live. And I started to use this phrase, the way that I designed to live. There's a certain design that we are gifted to be able to live in this physical plane, but somewhere that got lost into the shuffle of belief system and common collective assumptions, and also the systems that's embedded in the society and the world as a structure. Because when we look at the world, it's a very fear-driven, fear-based system. That's because people are, 3 people are in the wait room. This is 3 people are in the wait room. Oh, I need to see, I'm multitasking. I'm inviting people into the room as I speak. Oh, Megan is saying, felt more supported by everyone I know. Didn't feel so alone. And that's actually a super good observation. So you're saying that after yesterday, you felt more supported by everyone I know, didn't feel so alone and disconnected. That is an interesting thing, because your interpretation changed and the experience shifted. Maybe your heart opened more and you are ready to receive. So that shift that happened inside of you, almost it's trick you as if something outside changed, which is something that we're going to be talking about a lot, right? Everything that's outside of us is going to change when we change the inside. So yeah, heart desire. What if we can fully express our heart desire, and that needs to begin from the inside out. So I'm gonna go over the reflection first, as I did yesterday. So I hope you had a good experience, or maybe you're still doing the practice of writing a letter and to ask yourself what would be the mission, what is the reason that your soul has been sent on this earth plane, and then to let the heart answer, not the rational mind. That's important, right? Day two today is about the biggest pain in the greatest lesson. So um, today we're going to be talking about how we can embrace the path that we have taken. And so whatever you are is perfect. Whatever you are is perfect. That's what I want you to sort of affirm to yourself, because we have all kinds of opinions and ideas about around ourselves and the circumstance, right? But what if where you are currently and right now at this very moment, whenever that is you're listening to or watching this, is perfect? Then when you let that um, perception be your reality, everything starts relaxing, and you are allowing yourself to be fully present in a moment, because any judgment or false interpretation around what happened in the past is going to take you out of the present moment. So the question that I want everyone to ask today is, who are you meant to become in this process? So, like for instance, I have had so many things happening in my life that in the past, when I wasn't aware of, it felt like, okay, why is this happening to me, right? And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who feel that way, but it's interesting because I think it was yesterday, I saw somewhere posting that when your interpretation of life shift from why is this happening to me to what does this mean to me right now, everything starts shifting, because that container that you're perceiving and seeing through is going to become the way that that we call this attitude, the way that you're approaching life. And that is the essential part to begin opening and diving deeper into the heart desire and all that. So I am not doing what I'm doing right now if I haven't experienced all the things that I have experienced in the past. So, whatever that happened in the past, or maybe it's the current situation that might be in conflict with your desire, uh, we want to let that be just there and to be able to embrace it. Now, let me tell you that accepting it and embracing it are two different things. And let me tell you that the thing that's happening in our life is happening because our subconscious mind is accepting it. So we're going to go much deeper into that law of attraction and conscious manifestation tomorrow. But we say to accept, the subconscious mind accept an idea. Subconscious mind cannot reject an idea. So whatever that is that your subconscious mind is vibrating in a certain frequency, the resonance in the energetic field, which is, the heart is the big part of that, is always going to be expressed automatically. That is the creative mechanism that we have, that the heart has. Whatever that the heart is holding onto as a vibrational field is going to be expressed automatically, and that expression becomes the cause of the attraction to form all the circumstance situation in our life, because our subconscious mind is creative and our subconscious mind can only accept an idea. So whatever the painful situation or things that are not in our liking, when you see that in the physical world, we always want to assume and think that that is a reflection of the acceptance of my subconscious mind. So, and then we are not wanting that more, right? We want to, because we want to go back close to the source. We talked about this yesterday. The spiritual dimension, our soul is the expression of our soul is full completeness, happiness, joy, love, freedom. I might have said joy, but I'm gonna say joy twice. So the journey of life is to bring the concept of the self, the intellectual self, closer to the completion of who we are, which is the energy of the soul. Now, what I just said basically sum up what life is all about in my perspective. But if that was sort of like over your head, I'm gonna explain that more and more. There are two layers in our existence: the spiritual part of us and the intellectual part of us, and then the physical world, including our body, is our playground. What if your body is your playground? What if the physical material world is your playground? And the playground is how are we playing? We're playing with the mind. We're playing with the thinking, and the thinking affects our feeling, and the thinking and feeling affects our beliefs, and our feeling influence our action. So those four layers: thinking, feelings, beliefs, and action are what we are playing around with to express in the physical world. And what are we playing with? We're playing with entertaining this concept of self, who we see ourselves as in our mind, because the identity, that the sense of self that we who we think we are only resides in our mind. So I said that I'm gonna share with everyone Bob's video on YouTube on imagination, which I'm going to do it today. I haven't forgotten about that yesterday. I was thinking yesterday that I'm going to do that today. And towards the end of the video, that's like an 8 minutes video, towards the 7 or 8 minutes video, towards the end of the video, he says, no one will ever see you, but only see your body and the great work that you do. No one will see you, but your body and the great work that you do. Can you see that comment and what I just said a moment ago, that your body and the physical world is your playground? That's what everyone will see. Yeah. And but the who you are resides in your mind. And I'm gonna say this many, many times throughout today and tomorrow, because I really want everyone to grasp it. Like when you close your eyes, let's do this, everyone, together. Like when you close your eyes right now and you stop seeing things, because when you close your eyes, you cannot see the outside world, and it becomes dark, and suddenly the perception shift into more of the sensing and feeling inside, right? The inner world. That is who you are. That is who you are at the intellectual level. So the image that you hold about you, the thoughts that you entertain on a moment to moment, the feelings and emotions that you're living, and the beliefs that we're operating from is our intellectual self. So what are we doing? We're doing playing in this physical world in our body to begin peeling off the layer of the awareness, so that intellectual self becomes more and more and more closer to our desire, heart's desire, because we all have some sort of desire and the growth, right? And the more we align with that desire, that movement is about aligning with the essence of who we are as a soul. Does that make sense? Because what happens when we get closer to our desire? We start feeling freer and freer and freer. Yeah. So whatever the aspiration or objective that you have, the goal. That's why Bob says that goal setting is essential. Why do we set goal? Not many people understand the role of the goal. The goal is not to get but to grow. So it's a marker of your heart's desire to move closer towards it. But here's the thing: this is what becomes a little tricky. Move closer towards it means that, like, when we understand the manifestation process of the three layers of understanding that I'm going to talk about a little bit more, moving closer towards the goal is nothing to do with going somewhere else, but to be able to see ourselves in our mind's eyes closer to the perfection of who we are. Because when the desire is fulfilled, and when we feel freer and freer, we're seeing ourselves closest to the divine version of us, which is the energy of the soul. So I'm going to explain this concept from multiple angles, because if this is a newer concept to you, you might be thinking, oh, that's a fantastic idea, but you might not be grasping fully. So I'm going to talk about today, well, I'm already talking about a lot of stuff, but I'm going to talk about today redefining the concept of time, past, present, future. I'm reading the PDF. And the missing piece in spirituality that I'm so passionate about talking. And then what does it mean to you tapping into the intuitive mind? And then the three essential practices that I believe to be a key to truly unlock what we want to create, to tapping into the heart desire. And all this topic is going to be to really help everyone begin embracing your path fully. So here we go. That's what we're going to be focusing on. So as I said yesterday, the way that I always like to sort of lead these seminars workshop is to sort of go back and forth between what I talked about yesterday and what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, and explaining things, something similar from multiple angles. And that seems to be the most effective, because the whole objective of what I'm talking about is to allow this information to sink into your subconscious, not as an intellectual mind. So yesterday I talked about the 5 and the 4 and the 3, right? And then in the fourth dimension, there's a mind and there's a body. And since we're talking about the heart, the body has the heart. The fifth dimension is the spiritual plane, where it's the field of the soul. And the fourth dimension is the intellectual plane, which is the field of the mind. And the third dimension is our playground, the physical plane, which is the field of the body. Now, you might be wondering, the body's right here. The body's right here, not right here. So this, figure of the mind and the body resides in space. Yes, that is correct. But the mind has the thinking, and the body contains the feeling. So when I say body, it's more about the feeling body and the thinking mind. And this is what made Elaine confused. The body, the conscious mind, and then the subconscious mind is your body. Subconscious mind is your body. You can just affirm that that's the case. I know Bob explained this a little bit differently, where he divided this mind into half, and top half conscious mind and bottom half subconscious mind. It's the same thing. I'm just explaining it differently. So I just want to have everyone sort of stare at this. And then I talked about thoughts and feelings. And well, I'm just going to talk about here, there's a belief. And then whenever we take action in the physical plane. And I talked about there are two energies that the intellectual mind can generate. One is empower, which is positive, and the other one is disempower, which is negative. Yeah. Now, and I also talked about in the dimension of the fifth dimension, spiritual plane, where the soul lives, which exists all the time, right? I don't want you to assume that the spiritual dimension is somewhere out there that is very far. We are living in this fifth dimension, fourth dimension, third dimension simultaneously all the time. It's just a matter of recognition, recognizing that the fifth dimension is with us, in us all the time. I talked about all the things that we're looking for, freedom, joy, happiness, love. That is the nature of fifth dimension, the completeness of it. So in this fifth dimension, there's only abundance, there's only empowerment. This is where I'm going to start talking about something a little bit different. Empowerment. And notice that in the physical world, there are a lot of things that we can enjoy, that you feel positive and empower. A lot of people like nature, music, all the stuff, all the good stuff, good food, maybe. But also, you might experience things that are disempowering, right? Positive and negative. In the spiritual realm, there's only empowerment. In the physical realm, you have both empower and disempower. Yeah. And the intellectual mind can go to either disempower or empower. Okay, are we ready? There are three ways that we can think. Either let the outside situation, let me change this to a little bit thicker one. Let the outside situation influence our thinking. So our five senses, because you don't see this, because you experience the criticism, because you saw a rude person, because of whatever that is happening in the outside world, impacting our thinking. And notice that whenever anything impacts our thinking, automatically it impacts our feeling, because you cannot be thinking and feeling something different. You cannot be thinking negative thoughts and feel gratitude. You cannot be thinking grateful and appreciative and then feeling anger. So this is number one, right? Number two, we have this thing called past. And whatever the past memory that is I'm just going to use the term store in our feeling body, impact the way we think. That's number two. And number three, we can entertain anything we want in our mind, imagining the future outcome, and then bringing that into the present moment. There are three ways to think. Outside in is number one. Past present is number two. Present future is number three. Notice that most of us, as a default state, let the outside impact our thinking, or let the past information or experience dictate what we can think right now. Because that is the default state as an animal. That is the default state as an animal. And then what I explained yesterday, as far as the the conscious manifestation is about bringing the spiritual energy into the mind and letting the heart to feel to manifest in the physical world. That is a idea that a lot of people are becoming familiar, but this is not something that parents taught us. This is not something that school taught us using however years we went to school. So we're not accustomed to and conditioned to and trained to think and act and live that way. Does that make sense? If the whole objective of having a playground and the whole concept and idea of life is about bringing the spiritual idea psychologically and then feeling wise into the physical world, I want you to take a moment to imagine that every single year that you went to school, you were exposed to this idea for, I don't know how many years people go to school. Japan has, because I went to school in Japan, has a little bit different. Like we had like 6 years in elementary school, and then junior high school 3 years, and high school 3 years, and university 4 years. So let's say if you went all the way until the end of high school, I had 6 plus 3 plus 3, so 12 years, somewhere along the line, right? Whatever you are. What if for the entire 12 years, all we are learning was about this, about the self, about the awareness? Then you start building this awareness and an attention where thinking is potent and vital in creating the life. So I'm gonna reject and refuse to let the outside, you can let the outside empowerment dictate your thinking, but we don't want to let the outside disempowerment influence your thinking. So we start training our mind to not to let that thing affect us. We also can train our mind to not to let the past driven, disempowered feeling affect our thinking in the present moment. Now, one of the agendas that I have today is to begin helping everyone redefining the concept of time, past, present, future, if you remember. So I'm talking about, past, present, and present, future, and an outside in. Now, there's no such a thing. There's no such a thing as past and the future, to be honest, because when the past happened, it was in the present moment, and the future comes, it's also in the present moment. So what are all these things that we're talking about, the past and the future? It's just, the past, we often talk about memory, right? What is memory? So there are two types of memory, explicit and an implicit memory. So explicit memory is, okay, if I tell you such and such person who was sitting right next to you in your kindergarten, if you remember, that is an explicit memory that I'm guiding you to think a specific image. Implicit memory is that, okay, if you practice riding a bicycle when you were little, that memory is now in your subconscious, in the kinesthetic, the movement-based memory in your body, and you don't need to think about it, but your body remembers. Those are implicit memory, right? So all those memories are in your feeling body. Let's say they're stored in your feeling body. And memory is basically an action of re-experiencing what your cell knows and then bringing it out on the surface. Does that make sense? So the reason that I really wanted to focus on this number 2 is because so many people I see are trapped in their own feeling because we all had some sort of traumatic event, the way that we're treated, all that. Yeah. And this feeling as a default state impact the way we think. And this is just the nature of us, like the feeling that we're living kind of bubbles up as a default state how we think. Now, how do we get out of this? Because this number 3, present future version of thinking, and the present future version of thinking is basically, because nothing is the future, it's about the future, but everything is happening in the now. This number 3 is about entertaining a empowering thoughts based on what you want, based on the heart desire. Because imagining the future, you can imagine whatever you want. So you could even imagine something disempower, right? So the way that we want to condition our mind to train is to navigate our attention to become one with the heart's desire as an image, and begin entertaining that thinking by choice using your conscious focused attention. Now, if we do not entertain our thinking by design, you will be thinking by default. This is just the nature of us, right? So if we do not consciously and deliberately move our attention to our heart desire and an empowering image of what kind of life I want to be living, what kind of experience I want to be having, and then move that image consciously and deliberately into our feeling, when we don't go there intentionally by design all the time, as a default, you will be ending up thinking, letting the outside disempowerment affect, letting the past emotions and feeling that might not be serving you to affect your thinking automatically. So I just want you to know that if we do not engage in our thinking, mental activity by design, you will be entertaining by default. So what we want to do to embrace the path fully, the path that we took fully, is to recognize all the awareness that we have gained through the pain, through the struggle, through the adversity and circumstance. Even though you might feel like it's not serving you, it is always serving you, because you gain that awareness. But what we want to learn is to stop accepting that vibration, because if you accept that vibration that is not serving you, that becomes the point of attraction to create the circumstance that you do not want, right? So what we want to do is to identify all those and then appreciate the awareness that you gain from that. And only then you can gain that appreciation and awareness, and then to be able to embrace it and to be able to let go. Now, here's the thing. Once you identify those, you want to stop focusing on letting those go. because if you focus on letting those go, that's what you're focusing on. This is where a lot of people get trapped. Once you identify those, which I think we're going to be doing that in the reflection, now you want to identify what is your heart's desire. So go back to the reflection number 1 that we did yesterday, and to entertain and engage in this idea of, what do I want to be thinking that reflects my heart's desire? And then what gives me a sense of fullness of the heart? What do I want to imagine and entertain our thinking to be able to feel the heart full all the time? What do I want? And what is this soul in me here to do? Those are the questions that I want to continue to ask, and then answer. And those are the things that we always want to be thinking all the time. At the beginning, it might feel like, oh, that's a lot of work to do. Well, it might be a lot of work to do at the beginning, but we want to, once that becomes a default state, that thinking and going to this empowerment and thinking thoughts filled with your heart's desire becomes, you do that by design, but when that becomes a default state, you will start feeling easy. And notice that, as I said earlier, 12 years, however years you might have gone to school, this, from spiritual to intellectual to physical, is not the way that we are trained. We are trained to look at the five senses. We're trained to think logically. So we do need some undoing process, right? So one of the things that you could do is to watch this video or listen to this, although it's going to expire in 7 days. So you want to focus, right? And then to have those reflections, and you got the idea, right? It's important to write all those things down that is not serving you, that your subconscious is currently ending up accepting. And we want to stop accepting by identifying them and then shifting into all the things that your heart desires. All the things that your heart desires. So what we want to do is to begin embracing all aspects of life and to truly understand that what's important the most is to be able to shift into and stay in this empowering thoughts, empowering thoughts, empowering thoughts. How do we entertain all the time these empowering thoughts? We need to develop this muscle called attention. And then when we are not paying attention to and being intentional, we become habitual and begin going to a default state. So I hope this makes sense. I'm going to erase all this to draw something completely different. So if you let the default feeling be in charge of your life, you will always, your thinking will always be controlled by it. But we want to also train our thinking to change our feeling instead of letting our feeling to control our thinking. Does that make sense? So the feeling is the what's in the body, and it's the consciousness in the fourth dimension of the body. But where it begins is your awareness and the thinking. Okay. Good. So another completely different thing that I want to talk about a little bit is to really understand this concept of habit and intention. And then the opposite of habitual way of operating is choice. Sorry, I'm gonna write this. These are short enough words that I can write. And in the power of faith, instead of being in fear mode. So Gary Zukav, who wrote a book, Seed of the Soul, talks about the seed of the soul. What is the seed of the soul? Seed of the soul is the act of choice and the intention. The act of choice and intention. Why does he call the act of choice and intention a seed of the soul? Because when you open your heart and when you acknowledge that heart's desire, and when you choose intentionally the empowering thoughts that gives us a sense of expansion, that's when we are honoring the expression of the soul through the gate of the heart. But as I said yesterday, because the mind is the gatekeeper, the intellectual mind needs to be constantly aware and observe which thought we're choosing. Which thoughts we're choosing. So when we acknowledging the intelligence of the heart is also about letting the mind to choose empowering thought and to become aware of the choice that we're making intentionally to fulfill that mission of the soul, and to begin observing all the autopilot habitual way of operating that we have developed through the school system and the programming, and to be willing to be courageous enough to make this shift. That's layer one. Yeah. Now, the disempowering thought comes from this biological mechanism called fear. So in the three-dimensional world, we see empowerment, disempowerment. Intellectual mind, we can think empowering thoughts and disempowering thoughts, right? Now, nobody wants to be in the state of fear. Nobody wants to be in the state of survival. Nobody wants to feel contracted, right? Now, but the fear is inevitable because that's part of the law of polarity. Always exists, right? The darkness exists, light exists, good and bad, up and down. There's a law of polarity. And in order for us to, nevertheless, begin shift out of this fear as quickly as possible, we need to understand and embody this energy called faith. And the energy of faith is this feeling, because faith is a feeling that we are connected and supported by the infinite universal intelligence. And this is not something that we can tap into using our logical mind. When we begin clearly understanding this idea that the soul got thrown into this physical world, and the existing of each one of us in this physical playground has certain bigger intention and it's already purposeful, there is this invisible energy that we can tap into called faith. And then, faith is interesting because often faith is considered to, some people, think of as a religious term. Faith is basically, to me, you can define faith in a different way. Faith is to understand and accept and allow this idea that the power lies within you. The power lies within you. And the power can be expressed to and through you. So it's not about, okay, help me. It's not about help me, infinite intelligence. This is how sometimes prayer tends to get lost into a different perspective, because prayer and faith kind of goes hand in hand, right? It's not like, there is a bigger force, there is a bigger intention, but true faith, to me, with understanding, with this awareness of the three planes of understanding, is that there is an infinite universal intelligence, but you are that. When you own the power within, which is the empower, right? That's why thinking empowering thought has everything to do with faith and prayer. Prayer is not too much about asking, because we talk about asking, prayer, but asking is also about willingness to receive, and a willingness to receive, only we can receive that by embodying that power within. Does that make sense? I don't want you to get confused with this, because sometimes in this spirituality or even in the meditation field, we tend to, there is a movement that talks about prayer, asking somebody else, right? But what if the energy of the soul is a part of the totality of the infinite universal intelligence? And then when we tap into that power, it also means that you want to own that power within. So faith is truly an acknowledging acknowledgement of the power within that you're holding onto. And then when we go to a logical mind and when we let that adversity or outside thing impact our thinking and feeling, we lose connection. Okay. I think that's enough things that I want to talk about for this faith thing. Let's see if I can go back to that PDF. There's a lot of different things that's open here. Oh, yeah, I was looking for the PDF. So the reflection that I want you to do based on all this information, I'm just going to read it again. The biggest pain is the greatest lesson. So you might have had different things happening in your life. Maybe you are dealing with that right now. But how can we see those as a lesson? Because when we resist against it, it persists with us, right? So let it be as it is, because everything is just is. And the way that we see and perceive creates meaning around it. And then when we tap into more of the intuitive mind, nothing is happening to us, but everything is happening from and through us. And how can we look at the meaning of it? And then when we shift the perception into that lens, which is an empowering lens, we can embrace everything that had happened and is happening right now. So we can turn that into a seed of creation. The challenging things will never turn into the seed of creation if we resist against it. We want to identify, acknowledge, so we can stop accepting at the subconscious level and we can embrace it. And then we want to ask, who are you? Who am I meant to become in this process? So now you're creating a meaning as a lesson, as a gift, to be able to utilize that to create something in the future, which is always happening in the next present moment. Okay, that is it. That was a little bit different. I'm reading the comments. But Jacqueline is saying heavy stuff. What if it is light? Julia, big stuff, feeling grateful. We are building this awareness now. Yes, we are building this awareness now. I posted something on my Facebook personal profile last night that is related to what we're talking about. So it might be good to check it out. Eric is saying deep. Yes, it's always deep. Megan, that makes so much more sense how goal setting moves us from our future to our present. Yeah. I don't know, Megan, because there are two Megans here. I don't know, Megan, if you watched the replay yesterday, but let's say if we, manifest, the goal is fulfilled. The goal that we're setting appears in the physical world. What I was saying yesterday was that it's not like we're going to a different place to manifest, but everything exists. The version of us with the goal already accomplished exists in the spiritual plane. So what we're doing is we're using our intellectual mind to see ourselves more with the heart's desire fulfill, the soul's expression fulfill. And then when we impress that energy upon our subconscious mind, the circumstances start harmonizing with how we are operating, and those results show up. But I think one of the things that is happening in the field, in the space of law of attraction, is that it's not about just visualizing and then feeling and everything shows up. This is something that I'm going to talk more tomorrow. It needs to be a streamline. So, the thoughts that we entertain, the image that we hold about ourselves needs to be aligned with the wish fulfill. The feeling that we're constantly in needs to be aligned with the wishful feel, the belief that we're operating from, and the way that we're, because the belief that we operated from is the lens that we're seeing through the world. So how are we seeing the world right now? Like for instance, and in the action, right? So the four layers, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and action. I think there are many people who like the idea of law of attraction and manifestation, and they do the visualization practice, they do the gratitude practice, they do the feeling practice. That's great. And then they see the world from their existing belief. That is a conflict. So let's say that subconscious vibration is the root and the seed of the manifestation, and ask and it is given, right? So every thought that we think, we are actually asking the universe. Every feeling that we feel, we are asking the universe. Every belief that we're operating from, we are asking the universe. So if we are doing the visualization and practicing feeling, being in that state, but then when we get out of the visualization and when we live this every single day moment from the current version of us believe, we're not asking fully. So that, and then the feeling, when the feeling comes from the end result, the action, the way that we act and move the body in the physical world must change and meet that wishful feel. So it requires a constant attention. And the three essential practices that I was gonna talk about today, which I don't think I talked about too much, is gratitude and the power of attention and the sense of worthiness. I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow more, because unless we have all these three things laid out, manifestation will not happen consciously the way we want to. Okay, that is everybody. That is everything, everybody. I think I'm gonna make this workshop and summit 53 minutes every single day instead of 45 minutes. Yes, that was a lot of information. So if you could check again and engage in the reflection, that'd be great. And let me know if you have any questions. Check it out. The personal page that I posted about the soul. I posted something about the soul. And in the replay today, I am going to send you the imagination video that I was talking about by Bob. So that is it. Thank you for joining and have an awesome day. See you tomorrow.